Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Go on Shaw TV. I'm Anand, and on this episode of Go, we're going to be checking out some greener ways of getting around Quesnel. Coming up on this week's episode.
The Relay for Life event in West Quesnel is here to raise funds for the Canadian Cancer Society.
So welcome back to an all-new episode of Go. I'm here with Mayor Bob Simpson, and we're talking about greener ways to get around the city. And I just wanted to say, this is a beautiful spot right out here. Is this a city-maintained, manicured lot?
Yeah, this is one of the city's little green spaces, and often in the summer especially, because it does get a bit of heat concentration, city staff come and sit in here. Some of the people coming down from Dunroven or Mayford will stop in here, so it does get used. You often see people sitting reading or having their lunches here.
Right on, and this is not a spot you would see if you were just, driving by it.
That's right.
You'd literally have to, walk or bike if you had to see something like that.
And we have lots of places like that in the community. It's actually quite surprising if people go for a walk, they see the city from a very different angle. If you're down on the Riverfront Trail looking over to the west side, it looks quite different than if you're up on the Moffat Bridge just driving over there, because your concentration is on the lane and making sure that you're safe. So walking, cycling, getting around in a different mode allows you also to see and interact with the city in a different way.
What are some of the ways that people can actually get around town in a greener way?
So this is the end of Bike to Work Week as we're doing this taping. I've never been a cycle commuter. I'm an avid cyclist, recreational, competitive cycling, mountain bike, and road. It's very different when you're cycle commuting because you have to do the advanced planning. I have to wear different clothes for different events, so I have to, come in on Sunday and drop my wardrobe off so I can cycle in and out. So cycle commuting is definitely one way, and we're mapping out cycle commuter routes for better signage, better protection for cyclists. We're trying to put a safe lane across the Johnson Bridge for cyclists because that metal surface is pretty dangerous. So that's one way of doing it, get around on a bike. The second, of course, is getting around on foot. And we have lots of walking trails already. Our Riverfront Trail is, not famous, but well known and well respected, and people think it's a great place. We're now mapping out alternate places that we need to provide safer pedestrian walking. And then we have lots of more people using mobility devices. So people who can't walk or bike, but don't necessarily want to get into a vehicle, they're now using mobility devices, and we're taking that into our accessibility planning. And then, of course, finally, our transit system. And we've got a process underway to improve our transit system and to really take a good hard look at it. So there are a variety of different ways. And on top of all of that, of course, if people want to be in the car, because we're a winter community, is to be organized and do some carpooling.
Right on. Now, we're going to go and check out a story, but when we come back, we're actually going to go and check out the first of these greener ways, which is the transit system, like you mentioned. So stay tuned for that. So welcome back to Go on Shaw TV, and as you can see, we're on the bus. Mr. Mayor, do you want to tell me where we got on, and do you want to tell me a little bit about the transit system in town?
Yeah, so this morning we got on at Spirit Square across from Shoppers Drug Mart, which is one of our main locations for all of our bus routes. So it's a central bus stop there, and the bus that we're on just now is just not en route, so we're actually using it, but this bus would go either to South Quesnel, over to West Quesnel, or run the North Quesnel, and we have a Red Bluff area as well.
A lot of people I talk to, they say that, oh, well, it's small enough a town for us to drive around. And, I know some people who work at CPP, for example, and the bus doesn't go all the way there. So what do you say to people like that, who say that you can't really, take the bus to work here?
Yeah, so we have found, so we don't have a bus route that goes up 2 Mile Flat or goes into the mills. And we have found in a number of assessments that there just isn't the demand in there because of the shift arrangement, our buses don't run overnight. They're not a 24-hour bus service. They don't run on statutory holidays. They run only 6 days a week. So we have limitations because it is a smaller transit system for a smaller community. So we have to be more strategic on the areas that we do go to. A lot of people from West Quesnel use the bus. A lot of people from Red Bluff use the bus. So that's where the concentration has to be. We are currently conducting a full review of our transit system. So on a regular cycle, we'll look at the system to see if there's areas for improvement. So we'll get an opportunity now to ask that question again. Has the demand changed such that we might want to look at 2 Mile Flat?
Do they foresee an increase in, bus passenger traffic in town and stuff like that?
We did a free transit the first term of the post-secondary school year last fall when they had the big parking debacle up at the campus. We found a very high increase in ridership. So now we're working with the student union at UNBC and CNC to see if we want to institute a UPass system for the students. We're incorporating that UPass with a recreation center pass as well to entice the students to buy in. But that may alone give us more ridership. But then we have to ask the question, where are the students coming from? What are the hours at the campus that they need to get to class? We heard some issues about they're not there early enough for the early classes, they're not there late enough for the later classes. So you have to figure out how to balance the cost of the system against that utilization and try and figure out how to make sure that it's an efficient, effective system.
Now, going away from all of that, in layman's terms, like if you had to convince people to use the transit more in town, like what's the biggest benefit of actually utilizing the system that we have here already?
In today's world, it is a form of communal transportation. So it reduces all of our greenhouse gas emissions when we fill these buses and people are off the road. So I think from a community perspective, from a greenhouse gas perspective, from an affordability perspective, this is a mode of transportation that's very comfortable and very effective for people.
That was a fun ride, hey?
It's a great bus. I was joking, this amphitheater style seating, we could put a busker on there and everybody would be well entertained as well. So
I think that would really work. That would be really unique for Quesnel as well if you had free busker entertainment on the bus, right?
Exactly.
Right on. Now, before we head on to two wheels, I just had a couple of questions for you. Now, if I was at home and I was interested in knowing a little bit more about the transit system in town, like what time the buses run, what the routes are, where would I find that info?
So you just have to Google BC Transit Quesnel and it'll pop the site up. The user guide is on there, the maps are on there, the routes are on there. You can also get information at City Hall, the Arts and Recreation Center, Shoppers Drug Mart, and Mohawk up at the mall.
Is there an app at all in the works, like in the bigger cities? Or?
Yeah, so we're working currently as we do our rebranding of the city. The next phase of that is a brand new website, brand new social media, and we're going to start having apps. And one of the apps we'd like to have is not just the transit system, but what are our options for commuter trails, for bike trails, walking trails, etc. So to have the whole, get out of your car app would have all of the options available. And that we're hoping this fall we'll have that.
Exciting stuff. I can't wait to actually try out this new transit system. I'm myself guilty of driving my car around, so this was an eye-opener for me. And, after the break, I'm going to do something else that I haven't done in 5 years. That's ride a bike with you, so let's see how that goes.
Well, one of the things on the bike that was pointed out to me, because I've been bike commuting all week, and I have to ride up Dragon Hill, Bryce Trail to get home, somebody said that you actually put the two together. So as we see, you can put your bike on the bus, so you ride down, you go wee on the way down, and then you throw your bike on the bus to get up the hill going home. So maybe I'll try that sometime next week.
Maybe I should have thought of that earlier, because when we come back after the break, I think he's got some uphills for me with that bike. So we're going to go and check that out right after this break. So welcome back to the show, and as I mentioned, we are testing out greener ways of getting around Quesnel, and one of those ways is biking. So, what's biking around Quesnel like? I've not done this, and you probably do this a lot more than I do.
Yeah, so biking in Quesnel is awesome. From a recreational and fitness level, whether you want to go off-road or on-road, you can go for hundreds of miles on road bikes and the same on mountain bikes. This past week I've been testing bike commuting, and so I've put many miles on a bike recreationally and for fitness. It's very different when you're bike commuting. And I think we've got a lot of work to do as a city to provide safe passages throughout the city. We've got lots of roads with wide shoulders. We do have the Riverfront Trail. We have Bryce Trail coming down in behind the recreation center. But we've got to pull all that together and make sense out of it, better signage, some protected lanes, etc. But we have people in the community who have cycle commuted for many, many years. And in fact, some people cycle commute all year round. So it's not just a fair weather activity that they do. So it is enabled. We need to make it even more possible.
Do you have any tips and pointers to somebody riding around Quesnel, like what to watch out for, etc.?
Well, first off, you've got a nice helmet.
Thank
so
you.
Make
blue
sure
foam.
you wear the right safety gear. I always recommend that people put gloves on too.
Yeah.
And the only reason for that is that, you know, if you do happen to have a little bit of a crash, that's often what gets abraded. And it also helps you if you get things on your tires or whatever, to, you know, stickies and things like that. But wear gloves, wear a helmet. Make sure that your bike is tuned up properly, that your tires are inflated, that your bike is safe to ride. We have some stores in town that can do that kind of maintenance, but it's also easy to learn. So when you know you have the equipment, the second piece is to always ride heads up. You know, I don't like seeing people ride with their earbuds in. They're not in tune with the traffic. They're in their head. You really need to ride in a heads-up manner. And then the third is always obey the rules. So a cyclist should always act as if they're a driver in a vehicle when they're on the road system. If they're on the trail system, they've got some more freedom. On the road, they should drive on the same side, ride on the same side that the cars are driving. Come away from the curb a little bit to force the vehicles to recognize that you are there. If you're riding in a group, ride single file. And I also would like it if our vehicle drivers here would recognize that we can't hear them. If we're riding at speed, we can't hear them. The wind's in our ears. So a little pump on the horn lets us know they're there. And the secondly, slow down. Right? You're going to miss a couple of seconds if you slow down and just pass this cyclist with care.
Right on. So, you know, without further ado, I think we should go for a bit of a ride and, you know, test this out and see how green this is and how much fun this can be.
So let's see if you can go from 0 to like 30 kilometers an hour in 10 seconds.
It's more
or
like
better.
0 to 3 kilometers per hour in 10 seconds. Let's go. Oh, okay.
Young, old, fit, not so fit.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make that. So welcome back to Go on Shaw TV, and you know, on this episode we're talking about greener ways of getting around our beautiful city. And speaking of our beautiful city, we're on the walking bridge. This is one of your favorite spots, one of my favorite spots.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit more about, you know, just walking around the city. What can you see around Quesnel when you just go for a walk?
Well, our Riverfront Trail is extensive. We have about 11 kilometers on Baker Creek, Quesnel River, Fraser River. And on any given, you know, nice spring, summer, fall evening, it is packed with people. It really does do a good job of bringing people together and giving people an opportunity to get out around the city in areas that they wouldn't see if they were in their vehicle.
Right on. And you know what, like, I noticed back there you had that emergency button on the bridge, and one of the things I wanted to talk about is, you know, a lot of people talk about safety when it comes to, you know, getting around the city and stuff like that. How has that improved? And you know, are there any bylaws in place so that, you know, safety is improved for senior citizens, young people to use our walkways and trails?
So we have a number of programs on the go. So part of what we've heard recently is that lighting is a major factor for people feeling safe. So we are putting in about $75,000 plus in improving our lighting system, switching from incandescents, which fade out and diminish over time, to LED systems. So you're going to see an improvement in the lighting, and the lighting on this bridge is another target area for us. We're also trying to improve some of the work that we're doing around panhandling. You know, mostly around aggressive panhandling, things that aren't enabled under the Safe Streets Act. But we've designated both ends of the walking bridge as a no smoking area and no panhandling area. So that way our police and our RCMP can move people along who congregate there. Now, quite frankly, where people congregate doesn't necessarily mean it's unsafe. And so people who are walking, our seniors, etc., really need to think about whether it's unsafe or uncomfortable, because it may be uncomfortable, but it's not unsafe. So we've got some work to do. In general, I'd say you can move about this city feeling absolutely safe wherever you go.
Now, we've had a gorgeous spring, an early spring, and you mentioned you've been getting out a lot, and you were mentioning a 120 kilometer bike ride that you're planning to go on and everything else. Tell me, what's your favorite thing about green commuting around, our town? What's your favorite part about, getting on a bike or walking around town?
Well, I don't know that there's a favorite thing. That's probably the hardest question you've ever asked me in all the shows that we have done. I love it all. I like getting around. When we're finished this, I'm going to go for about an hour run on our trail system, and getting out. We kayak in the river. We kayak in the lakes. Anything outside is my favorite thing. And our city enables that. If you love the outdoors, you can do whatever people do in the outdoors within 15 minutes of your own house.
Excellent. Now we're going to go and check out one last story about why this city and why the Caribou is such an amazing place, especially in the summer. And when we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. So welcome back, and as I mentioned, this has been one of the most fun things that we've done together since we started, talking about what's been happening around the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been fun watching you huff and puff trying to ride a bike around the city. So
I am so regretting editing all that audio later on. It's just going to be, that's what it's.
So here's your challenge, because you've now got a full year before Bike to Work Week next week. So, and you'll have a record of how out of breath you were this time. Next year, you're going to be so fit, you'll be able to do it just standing on your bike going uphill.
Oh, you got it. I'm really pumped up to do that as well. But, like we were talking about Bike to Work Week, this is the first time Quesnel's been a part of that as well, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the city didn't feel comfortable registering before. And as I said earlier, we will be looking at putting a lot more infrastructure in place, a lot more signage in place. And next year's Bike to Work Week will be more of a celebration. We'll be more deliberate, more formal in what we do.
Right on. Now, this whole episode we've been talking about accessibility, greener ways of traveling around the city. And, I asked you this before, your favorite parts about doing this. Why would an average citizen, actually take part in this? Like, if you could, inspire them and tell them one thing that they should try about this, what would that be?
One of the things I think Quesnel offers is the ability to slow down time a little bit. And so if people are just a little bit more deliberate about how they get around town, then they can slow time down a little bit, enjoy, get a little bit of opportunity. I've noticed in the mornings as I've come in, it's an opportunity for me just to think about what my day is going to look like, what I want to accomplish, where I want to go, without my phone going off, without somebody stepping into my office, etc. So I think the gift of a bit of time, if you get yourself a little bit organized, and then you walk or you ride or you take the bus, and you're not worried about driving and stop signs and other drivers, your mind is cleared a little bit. So I think from that perspective and the general health benefits, it's just a no-brainer.
No doubt. I really felt that relaxation. I didn't even feel where the time went there. And what, speaking of time, like if you guys at home want to learn how to volunteer with us and volunteer some of your time in learning how to make stories like the ones that we're working on right now, just send me an email on this link below. We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you got any ideas for future episodes like this, send us an email as well. And we'll see you next week.